It's me, Mickey Mouse, and welcome to ReThought Park, the show where we analyze, break down, and reimagine popular theme park attractions. Today, we're having a zippity-doo-dah day with Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain is one of those classic Disney attractions that everyone needs to go on at least once when visiting the Magic Kingdom. This attraction takes the structure of the log flume ride and adds so much wonder and whimsy that you will leave the ride actually frolicking. And that's not a bad thing. I applaud this ride for being both an exciting experience and a family-friendly adventure with outstanding scenes, memorable characters, a song that's way too catchy for its own good, and arguably the single most iconic drop in the history of theme park rides. The ride itself is almost flawless. I mean, I don't believe it has any problems per se. I mean, maybe a few animatronics could use an upgrade here and there, but... Oh, hey Dumbo, how's it going? Oh, I see. Alright, so the elephant in the room is the movie that these characters and that song came from. For those of you who don't know, the inspiration for this ride's story came from an old live-action Disney movie called Song of the South. The movie's about an elderly slave man telling his master's son the tales of Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear, all three of which are the main focus of Splash Mountain. And as you can see, it's kinda hard to sing Zippity-Doo-Dah now without thinking of the inspiration. And Disney knows this. It's notoriously difficult to get a copy of Song of the South now because of its subject matter. The mouse doesn't want to associate itself with it anymore. So, I want to help them distance themselves from the movie by explaining what I would do to reimagine Splash Mountain. Now, my idea is kinda similar to what they did with the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Disneyland, as well as my idea for the Ghostbusters / Men in Black ride in my previous episode. By the way, link in the description if you want to see that video. It's actually pretty good. Which is to keep the ride, but to change the franchise. Now, for Men in Black, I changed it to Ghostbusters. For the Twilight Zone, it changed to Guardians of the Galaxy. So, for Splash Mountain, I wanted to find a Disney-owned franchise or movie that hasn't been fully utilized in the parks yet, and could easily fit in with the log flume dark ride style of Splash Mountain. And then I thought of just the one. What if we used Moana? I mean, it's a fairly new Disney movie that takes place mostly out on the ocean. That just screams water ride, doesn't it? And the movie has a lot of amazing scenes that could plausibly be recreated for the ride. And we can probably utilize some of the sets already there. Not all of them, but some of them. Alright, so check this out. We get on our ride vehicle, which is now a small Polynesian canoe, and we begin our journey with Moana to find Maui. After a small journey, we end up right on his island as he sings the song You're Welcome from the movie, and we experience that colorful spectacle that we saw in the film. We could even use that new 2.5D technology they're using for the new Mickey's Runaway Railway or something. After the song, we then hit our first big drop as we fall right into Lalutai to find Maui's hook. We pass by several colorful monsters and leaves and stuff like that before we finally reach Tamatoa, who is so huge that all we can really see are his eyes looking right down at us. After a quick battle, we are soon saved by Moana and escape Lalutai in one piece, only to immediately be faced with a horde of Kakamora. These creatures are swinging everywhere trying to steal the heart of Te Fiti. We escape unharmed as we finally reach the big drop. As we are slowly lifted up, we pass by the destruction that Taka has left behind. We get to the top and we see a giant Taka animatronic facing Moana, just like in the movie. We see a giant green flash just before we're sent down the final hill. After the big splash, and we pass by all the nature coming back to life after Taka turns back into the goddess Te Fiti. In the final scene, we see Moana and her village finally setting sail once again, Maui flying high above us. Then we're off. Now, this may sound like just a reskin of Splash Mountain, and you're not wrong. It's the same problem I had with the Men in Black ride when I reimagined it. However, this ride will call for a lot of animatronics and effects that will help define the Moana ride as an improvement rather than just a reskin. I mean, picture it. You're floating down the river and seeing the animatronic of Maui transforming before your very eyes into a hawk. I would imagine that the mechanics would be similar to what was used in the Snow White Scary Adventure, but with the new technology and advances that take this effect farther. Another thing would be the animatronics for Tamatoa and Taka. They would be huge. I'm talking as big as the King Kong animatronic. I mean, that in itself would be amazing to see. Also, changing the theme to Moana would mean we have to change the aesthetic of the outside of the show building. Instead of it being a dead tree with the river falling down into thorns, it would have to be something like a volcano. So ultimately, it would be a very different ride, just very similar ride mechanics. And knowing them, they also want to distance themselves as much as possible with Song of the South. So they may very well use Moana. Anyways, that's my idea. What do you think of Splash Mountain? What would you change about it? Leave a comment with a ride suggestion below and you may get a shout out in the next video. Until next time, ride on.